please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, Lakshmi Vilas Bank is the bank on our radar now. The bank has announced that it is going to be raising funds to the extent of, I think, 1,500 crores. It's taken permission for that. But separately, there is also a dispute that it has with Religare Finvest. And apparently, SEBI has also pulled them up for not disclosing it in the regulatory filings. Parthasarathi Mukherjee, the Managing Director and CEO of Lakshmi Vilas Bank, joins us now. Good morning, Mr. Mukherjee. Thank you very much. Can you just take us through this Religare Enterprises suing you and you having to seize their FDs because the loans to their promoters, Malvinder Singh, was not repaid. Can you just take us through the problem, and did SEBI really write to you?
Lata, I'm unable to comment on this at all.
Okay.
And in any case, we've stepped into our silent period, so I am unable to discuss anything concerning the bank at this moment.
Okay. But this is only a regulatory issue. Even that you cannot clarify whether there was anything that SEBI asked you to file to the Bombay Stock Exchange. Have you since filed it?
You would have found a response that we had given to the stock exchanges, which were quite self-explanatory. I'm sure you would have got enough answers there, of course.
Okay. Mr. Mukherjee, good morning. I wanted your thoughts also on the latest news flow on the government setting up this AMC for selling the bad assets. Do you think that this measure would sort of yield any kind of interest at all from, from foreign investors, from PE investors, etc.? And what are your thoughts on how this could progress?
I think it will get interest. It will see a lot of interest. We've been seeing a lot of bilateral interest coming to us from investors abroad on buying stressed assets. So I imagine this may not be a bad idea after all.
Okay. But do you think they will be able to put together, will funds be interested in buying stressed assets through an AMC, or do you think bilateral sale to stressed asset funds would be easier?
The stressed assets fund concept, of course, needs a lot of clarification, so I'm unable to say whether a direct trade can happen. But thus far, a number of trades have happened through the ARC route.
Okay, you said that a lot of bilateral interest has been coming to you from investors. Are these mostly to do with, I mean, a lot of foreign investors or domestic investors? I mean, what are the nature of the investments that we are looking at?
It's a mix. We've seen interest from both domestic and foreign investors on this.
Okay. Can you take us through your fundraising plans as well? You're planning to raise 1,500 crores, right?
Lata, as I mentioned, now that we've got into the silent period, I am told that I am not in a position to speak on fundraising for the rest till my first quarter results come out.
Okay, you can't speak about the numbers, but at least you can tell us in general about the trend that you're seeing as far as the industry is concerned. How is rural credit looking, consumer credit? Have you seen a pickup compared to what what we saw over the last 2 quarters?
Yes, I do see some pickup actually. There is some interest overall. SME, yes, there is demand. At the same time, one must be careful. I think there is a relatively heightened level of stress in the SME books too.
Oh.
But certainly there is demand.
Okay, relatively higher level of stress. So now, would you say that therefore we should be prepared for higher NPAs from the banking system? I mean, until now we saw only the large assets being recognized. Do you think the sector will now be forced to recognize SME loans because you have the new February 12th dispensation as well?
The recognition of stress in the SME book is an ongoing process. I imagine a lot of that has been recognized already and on a regular basis as and when they develop. obviously the concept of, shall we say, evergreening is a lot less today. So a lot of that is being recognized as it emerges. So my sense is a lot of the stress has been seen, has already been recognized. The incremental stress will be recognized as and when the market sees it.
No, what I'm asking Mr. Parthasarathi is that the February 12th circular said that starting March 1st, only even for 1 day default, the banks have to get together and start to put in a bit of a resolution plan or speak to the management. Now, therefore, this is the first quarter we have where you have the full effect of this 1 day default and the process that the banks have to put in thereafter. Therefore, do you think that in this quarter, the banking sector will be faced with more NPAs? I mean, you can discipline some people into returning the loan on day one, but a large number will be used to T+89 to return the loan.
I'll put it to you this way. It does not automatically mean that you will see more NPAs in the system. Clearly, there will be a lot more of activity among the banks. The engagement with borrowers is a lot more intensified today. I don't think it automatically translates into recognition of NPAs.
Okay, but the view was that the SME sector has sort of staged a bit of a recovery after, the dual impact of GST and demonetization. You're not seeing any major recovery. I mean, at least that's the feedback that we got from the industry.
No, I agree. The SME sector has actually recovered from the GST shock and it has adapted itself remarkably well, actually, if you ask me. Much better than what we had thought would happen. However, I'm maintaining that in general, the stress in the sector is a bit higher. And it need not necessarily be linked to GST.
Let me come back to where we began, the AMC and the ARC issue. You said that your bilateral conversations on asset sale have been fairly good. Will you be able to reduce your stress significantly through sale to ARCs? Because Q4 saw a sudden jump in your GNPA.
The efforts are on, and clearly we will be endeavoring to reduce the gross and net NPLs through a variety of means, including sales to ARCs. I'm sure the ARC route could look quite attractive going forward.
What is your sense about this Sunil Mehta endorsed AMC plan? When do you think it could be up and running? Anyone, maybe a sector fund, a power fund or whatever, do you think the first asset sale could happen in the next quarter, say in the July, August, September quarter?
I wouldn't bet on Q2, but with luck Q3.
Finally, you had announced to the exchange that you're raising money. That means your outlook on loan growth should be reasonably positive. Can you give us some direction as to how loan growth might pan out this year?
I'm hopeful of seeing very reasonable loan growth. You'll appreciate that we've been careful in the past about growing the book, partly because of the situation with our capital. I'll put it to you this way, that loan growth should not be, shall we say, very poor.
No, last year I think
around the system growth.
Last year your advances growth was 8.6%. You would be confident of doubling that, or at least very close to, I mean, say a 15% should not be difficult this year? It's a low base after all.
I would hesitate to put a number, but I would certainly endeavor to do a lot better.
And what about, sorry.
No, I just wanted to come back to that point about ARCs. What is the quantum of NPLs that you would be looking to sell through the ARC route?
Sonia, I wouldn't really put a number. It's going to be a case by case. Every asset would be looked at by the ARCs, and we are talking to multiple ARCs. And depending on the success in the negotiations, we'll work it out. we haven't really fixed a target. The intention is to clean up to the extent possible.
Okay. Generally, is the banking sector better off in terms of margins? Given the movement in the market, you should be able to price your loans higher, isn't it?
My feeling is in the short term, margins should be under some degree of pressure.
Okay.
Partly because of the accelerated recognition of NPLs.
Okay.
But going forward, I would be of the view that things will look up quite a bit.
Now, what is this forward, sir? Is it Q3 or is it Q4? Or is it FY20?
It cannot be a system point. I think it will depend on bank to bank. Many banks, in my opinion, have cleaned up substantially. They should see improvement possibly quicker. There are many who will probably take on the entire financial year to clean up.
Okay.
So it would be difficult for me to generalize.
But for yourself?
I would say that as you move quarter to quarter, you will clearly see an improvement overall for the system.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Mukherjee, we've run out of time. Thanks for joining us and giving us an update. That's Lakshmi Vilas Bank. But you know what? Let's focus back on the markets, the commodity markets particularly, because crude, as we've been telling you, has once again risen to almost $78 a barrel because of those issues in Libya. Manisha Gupta joins in now with a quick roundup of all that's happening in the commodity space. Manisha.
Thank you so much for that, Sonia. Yeah, can't see it lying too low for too long is what really is happening with the crude oil prices. Libya in a couple of places has declared a force majeure, and that is the reaction that you are seeing on prices for the crude oil. We have seen a percentage point of gain coming for the international markets, and that's exactly what we are mirroring here as well. So markets really are watching out for various things. On one side, it is the kind of supply surge that you have seen come in from Russia, Saudi Arabia and US. But on the other side, there are supply concerns and more countries really being added to that list. We were talking about Canada, Venezuela, Iran, Angola, Nigeria, and now we've added Libya to that list as well. And the demand expectations are on the higher side for the rest of 2018. So you are going to look at buying on all dips when it comes to the crude oil prices. It actually is a fresh 44-month highs for the US crude oil prices. Brent, of course, continues to trade along that $78 per barrel in Asia right now. The gold and silver price as well is one sector where you have seen pressure continue. We did see the gold prices continue to decline. It actually is trading below $1240 per ounce in the global markets. It is about the rupee depreciation, and that's the reason you have seen those calculations actually being better than what the international counterparts are doing. Keep an eye on silver, because in the last 10 days, we have seen the silver prices not only decline below 40,000 rupees per kg, but it is now trading below 39,000 as well. It has broken below $16 per ounce in the global markets, and this is the first time that has happened. So it is a 2018 lows that we are dealing with in sense of this sector. The base metal prices have been quite volatile as well. If you look at the exports numbers from Japan, South Korea and China, they have shown a slowdown in the month of June, and that can be seen in case of the metal space. So you have copper trading at a 7-month lows. Aluminum prices, after falling 7% in the month of June, have continued to decline in July as well. There is tremendous pressure that you have seen come in for nickel and zinc as well. Nickel actually tends to be an underperformer, and the fundamentals are not so good, and that is the reason we are looking at breaking below that 1,000 mark in the Indian markets as well. Very flat trades coming in on your screens for most of that. Trading strategies is what we have from Angel Commodities, and they have a view on the Indian rupee as well, which they expect to depreciate going further. The 1-month futures actually can breach above 69 as well. 69.40 is the kind of level that they're working with in the day-to-day. In the commodity space, they're looking at lead, which is a sell with 163 of a target onto that one. In the energy sector, they are looking at natural gas, which also is a sell with targets of 193.
So we've moved into the green for the Sensex and the Nifty. The mid-caps are still under a bit of pressure right now, but there are stocks that are supporting the market. HUL, Infosys, as I said, have hit new highs at the moment. Okay,
we should be getting a banker yet again to discuss the AMC issue. But while we wait for the bankers, let's focus on the FMCG major HUL. As we've been telling you, Harish Manwani, in his first interview in a decade, spoke to Priya Seth of CNBC TV18. He spoke about an increasing trend of premiumization and digitization that HUL sees. Let's just listen to what he had to say on these two issues.
We do recognize premiumization as an important aspect, and it's easy to understand why. India is a fast-growing market. Quality of standards of living are going up. people's incomes are going up, and therefore we do expect people to upgrade and move up to buying better products. Having said that, you have to also recognize that again there is diversity in India. And that is why we still believe that our portfolio strategy of ensuring that we continue to premiumize some of our offerings, even as we continue to be relevant at the mass end and the middle end, is equally important.
As you step away, what is your vision for HUL in 2025? Which do you think would perhaps be the categories that would lead growth for the company?
I think the good thing is that part of our strategy remains, if you like, fixed, because that's our DNA, and our DNA is that we do believe that we have to be market makers. And as we look into any one of our categories that we operate in or sectors that we operate in, we want to make sure that we lead market development for adjacent categories and premiumization. We want to lead that. Our vision also is that we need to remain relevant for the consumers of tomorrow. And the big trend that we are seeing, of course, here is this whole digitization and technology. And I think we have been therefore proactive in terms of ensuring that the way we market our brands or the way we distribute our brands uses some of the best technologies to be relevant to the consumers of tomorrow. We are also conscious that big data is going to be an important competitive advantage. So we are actually moving towards, in fact, ensuring that we are able to use big data to segment our markets, to reach our consumers in a more targeted way.
Markets actually pulling up. It's a good 0.5% recovery that we are seeing in the Sensex and the Nifty from the day's lows, that is, and the mid-cap as well. Well, mid-cap is dilly-dallying. It appeared to recover all the way, and then now once again you're seeing a 0.25% dip. Nifty Bank flat. But the big story that's dominating Mindspace is that 5-point NPA resolution plan submitted by the Sunil Mehta panel. The most important leg of that announcement or of that plan is that assets over 500 crore will be sold by the banks to an asset management company. Now, that will be a very big relief because banks have been worried about the impact of the February 12th circular, especially on power assets. Kiran Rai, Managing Director and CEO of Union Bank of India, joins us to give us his thoughts. Mr. Rai, good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us. Well, first up that, when do you think this AMC will be in place? Are you seeing it coming in this quarter itself, July, August, September quarter? And do you think one asset at least could be bought by this AMC in this quarter?
I strongly believe it will happen in this quarter. And it is not one asset. There are few assets which are identified. So where some discussions were going on for some time, so can be placed in this AMCs. I strongly believe that it will happen in this quarter.
Okay, in this quarter. Mr. Rajkiran Rai, good morning. Do you see a lot of interest coming in from foreign players, or do you think primarily it will be domestic players itself?
At this point of time, it is difficult to classify these investors because the kind of assets which will get into these AMCs will be of much interest to these investors. Because one is the pricing is right, and the second thing is the appreciation of these assets in the next 2-3 years is anticipated to be good. So we will have a lot of investor interest. That is our a feeling and a belief.
Okay. The way they were talking about it, Sunil Mehta and co, it looked like banks also will put some money into that AMC. Will Union Bank be doing that?
Definitely, yes, because actually, see, we strongly believe these assets have value.
Yes.
At this point of time, actually, we may not be getting the right price. So if you are able to wait for 2-3 years, definitely there will be good appreciation in these assets. So it is a good investment. Actually, it will be done as an investment. You know, it is like you put like money in a mutual fund and invest in particular class of assets. It is more of an investment because it is actually the price at which the assets will get into these AMCs.
Yeah.
That is where the decisive point will be there.
Yeah.
At that point of time, the investors will definitely come in because they will see the value in these assets.
No, I agree, Mr. Rai, that it's a very great investment, most of the power companies 3 years down the line.
Yes.
But, you know, banks are not at the moment having so much money. Many of them have reported losses. Those who have reported profits have reported a very thin sliver of profits. So will you have the wherewithal? Will you have that balance money to put into the AMC? If yes, from your own point of view for Union Bank, how much money you think you can spare?
So I don't want to quantify that. See, you need to understand, actually liquidity is not a problem in the system. The problem is only the capital.
Capital, yeah.
So liquidity is abundant in the system. So, and there are banks which are capable of doing a decent investment in this AMC. And we are not depending on banks only. So please do not classify it as a bank investment purely. We see that at least 75–80% of the money will come from other investors.
But do you think investors could be discouraged because of the taxes that they would have to pay? I mean, one of the responses that we got from an investor indicates that currently the income tax department has not even notified that a resolution-based debt reduction is not going to increase tax liability. So why should I bid if I have to pay taxes on that haircut? Do you think all of these issues could sort of deter investors from participating?
See, I feel that the kind of keen interest government has shown in helping in creating this AMC, creating these committees, I hope they will also come with some solution. I think as the things evolve, it is only a concept paper which has come yesterday. So when we look at the specific issues, they will get flagged. And I'm very sure the kind of proactiveness the government has shown in IBC and other things. So I'm very sure these issues also will be solved and it will attract investors.
All right. We will leave it at that. Your optimism is encouraging, Mr. Rai. Thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts. We have to wind down on Bazaar with the news that the mid-cap index is still 0.25% lower, which makes the advanced declines in favor of the declines, but not by a lot. There is still a sort of long pressure in the Sensex and the Nifty. So long and short ideas waiting for you on Chartbusters in a minute. Thanks for watching Bazaar.